Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
Oh, Lord. I think I messed up a little bit. Hey, y'all. This is Jasmine Gates. Welcome to the New Black History Maker Show. There was supposed to be some applause or something that y'all could hear. Maybe, did you hear it? There it is. Okay. And we were supposed to be on the screen, but I was trying to get some other stuff together. But welcome. This is the New Black History Maker Show. We are back with another Friday here at the Good News Network, just bringing you just stuff on all things Black. So if you didn't know, April is National Poetry Month. So we, of course, had to get us a poet to come on here to talk about some of the stuff that she has going on. So if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can see that I'm not by myself. Camari Carter Hawkins has joined us today. She is here with us. I think that deserves an applause. Usually don't mess with the sound effects, but maybe today we will. I feel like you should have your lighter. When you used to do those those live. What did you used to say? Like it's fire in the chat?
Oh
Or
my gosh, you took it back to like 2020 with those lives.
yeah.
Yeah, with the lighters up.
Yeah, so we're talking. So during the pandemic, and we'll get into it a little bit, but Kamari was definitely the first person that I saw that was doing like open mics via Instagram Live. So like literally, maybe the first, or I don't even know, but it was very quick that you like had hopped on it. So like we weren't doing anything else, so that was like what I was watching at night. But she would have this lighter, like if a fire poet would go up, and then she would flicker, lighter. So it was so funny. But we'll get into that a little bit more about like how the pandemic kind of affected like poets and community spaces and all of that. But first, let's do a check in. How are you?
Wow. I'm doing as fine, I guess, as everybody else is, just coming out of, or if we're coming out of this pandemic,
Right.
we're like half in, half out. Doing good, just trying to get this poetry off the ground and dive more into it and be more committed.
Right.
And so, yeah, things are good.
That's
Things are
good. So
good.
if you watch the show, I'm big on this idea of like not only asking like the how are you, because sometimes, here I feel like people when they come on the show, they give like an honest response, or at least a little more honest than just like, oh, all is well, like even how you just elaborated a little bit. But yeah, like I always say, reading this article one day and it was saying, ask other questions outside of that just to facilitate like deeper conversations or just to get people thinking. So the question for today, it's always random. So the question for today is, if you could use one word to describe your current season in life, what would that word be?
Gentle.
Mm.
I guess to elaborate with that is it is a little bit more of a slower season than I'm like normally used to, especially with like relocating to another city / state or whatever, and it being a totally different environment. It's just me and my husband, and not I'm used to like ripping and running, going and going, but like it's very, very still. Maybe that's a better word. Still is probably, but I think it's very, very gentle, very still, and I'm not used to that. But I'm getting used to it. So I would say that's a good question. That's a
Thank
really
you.
good question. I guess, can I ask it back to you? Should I
My
ask it back?
season right now, I think it's like one word, right? It's definitely like transitioning. Yeah, it's definitely transition. I think just even with my business and stuff that's going on, even with like my health, like there's a lot of things that have really changed for me, things that were like constant that I thought, and I'm open about it. I've talked about my arthritis, dealing with that for 3 years, and then now being at this like, I mean, it's not weird. Like I'm grateful for it, but like this point where like this ailment that I've literally lived with is no longer affecting my body the way that it was. So that's like it's like, okay, now I'm here where it's not affecting my body. Okay, so like what's next? Kind of getting my body back to like being healthy and being able to treat it. Cause before it was like I was just trying to get my body to just get up in the morning, like just to thrive, or not even thrive, just to survive the moment. Like, how can I get from here to the car, even though I'm going to limp, or my body is hurting or whatever. So now it's like, okay, now my body can do for me again. So yeah, it's definitely like all right, like it's that point of being healed. And then now, like, what are you going to do with your healing, basically? So yeah, thanks for flipping it back.
Yeah, transition. That's a good word. But
Thank you.
sometimes transition it's complicated. It's not always simple. It's
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of times we want like, oh, the healing, or we want like the better thing, but it's like that comes with like responsibility, like even with me and my body, and this is not that this conversation, but we, can just freely talk. Like I lost a lot of weight for over the past 3 years with, my body was basically like eating at itself with this autoimmune disease. So now that it's better, I'm gaining my weight back, but it's like I have to be also responsible and make sure like I'm not just blowing up, like, so I'm in the gym or like being mindful of my eating. Like right now I'm like on a 30-day like no meat situation. So, but I'm realizing like, okay, I think my body just does a lot better without meat. So I think I just need to really make this like a thing, even if it's not like a permanent thing, but just really incorporate it into my lifestyle. But it's like we want the healing, but it's like I'm literally gaining all of my weight back and it's great, but it's like I have to be in the gym. I have to make sure like I'm not just letting myself go because I'm grateful that I was healed of something, so
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
it's deep out here. Like people want to grow and get better, but I'm like, it comes, with a price, being on the other side
Yeah.
of like the negativity and stuff. So
I love that. I feel like it's like you said, it comes with responsibility, and I feel like that can go along with anything that we desire. Like we still have the responsibility of making sure we get what we desire and then like maintain it as well, as opposed to just like, oh, I have it now, I can just chill. But
right.
we have the responsibility of stewardship.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes, being a good steward of that's interesting too, because that's the word that I've been like, oh, I need to be a good steward. I've been talking about my money, but being a good steward over everything, like all of those things matter.
Sound
But
like
yeah,
adulting. Adulting is like weird.
it's weird. I have no idea who created this. They can take it.
They can take it back.
Right, take it back because we could just be regular out here. Like everything that we have to do is just too much. But yeah, great conversation, great thing that I think people can like take away and stuff. Before we move on, we're gonna go to not go to a commercial, but a sponsor. So shout out to Compton Advocates. I'm sorry, Kamar, this is gonna cover your face for a little bit. I need to get it together. Let's see. It's going to cover both of our faces. But yeah, shout out to Compton Advocates. They will be having their next community roundtable on Saturday, May 14th at 10 a.m. at Youth Build in Compton. It's located at 1108 North Oleander. They will be having candidates from the June 7th school board election. So join them. Visit ComptonAdvocates.org for more information. And then you can also follow them on Instagram at Compton Advocates. So like I said last week, they're a really dope organization, but they're Compton is getting ready to go into the school board election, like I said, June 7th. So they have some of the candidates coming, some good information. So definitely pull up on them, follow them. Even if you're not a Compton resident, we all need to know about how school boards work and just be a little more in tune. So that's your chance to access people that are a little more well-versed in that space. So yeah. So back to Kamari. I want to talk a little bit more about you. So tell us about yourself, what you do. If you've been following my journey and if you've been following New Black History Makers, I'll say Kamari was on a show a while ago, like years ago, pre pandemic. So if you were if you're a fan or whatever of the brand and stuff, you definitely, have seen Camari. And then if you follow me, you've seen, Camari before. So for those of the people that do not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, what you have going on, all of that.
Of course. Yeah. I am a true LA native who is now tossed in her flip flops for cowboy boots, I guess, now living in Austin, Texas. Boo. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry. I am a poet and a writer, author of 2 books, poetry book called Death by Comb. Bam. And then author of a journal, a guided journal called Write Back to You. And when I'm not writing, I do for my day job, I do digital marketing, social media marketing. And then I also am in the middle of starting a publishing house called Mama's Kitchen Press, where we affirm our humanity through storytelling and we amplify Black voices. So yeah, everything writing, everything creative is like what I'm about. I've been in the writing industry for a few years now, maybe about 5 or 6 years. I got my start with a program called Community Literature Initiative, where they help writers of color publish their books, like get their poems up to a publishable quality. And that's how I got published. And after that, I worked with the publisher of my book, World Stage Press, for about 4 years, learned a lot, managed it. And that's how I got so much information on how independent presses work, small presses. I don't know how the big 5, the big New York Timers, all those people work, but I know how a small press works. And so I put my hat in the ring and started my own. And I did that because not like, oh, I want mine to be better or mine different or that. I went to this organization, like this conference that's geared towards, like, it's called AWP, Association for Writers and Writers Programs. And it's nationwide. Like, people from all over come to these events. And I went to one, and at this book fair, it's like thousands of people there, thousands and thousands, and hundreds of presses and programs. And I literally walked around with the purpose of counting how many I saw that were Black and or brown operated or owned. It was like barely one hand. It was barely. Now, if there were Black people at that table, they were probably like working it. But like to say this is like ours, it was even less. And so I was like, that let me know, like I zoomed out, like even though I'm in a bubble, I'm in a writer's bubble. Like all my people I know are like creatives, writers, whatever. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, there's enough voices out there. There's enough publishers. There's enough. But when you zoom out of LA, you zoom out, it's so small. And I was like, I gotta put my hat in the ring and like, we need to get more voices out. So that was my reason for starting my press.
I love that. I definitely love that. And I remember, I think, like hearing you speak about the event in real time and like how you were like, okay, this, experience wasn't what not even about the experience, but your expectation of like seeing more people that look like us just wasn't necessarily met there. So I'm glad, like, as time has passed, that you're offering something like back to the space. Like, that's really dope.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes too with Black people, unfortunately, because we're so in a bubble as well. Like all we know, we probably know a lot of Black people and we all think, oh, we're doing the same thing. I shouldn't start this either because my friend got this, or I shouldn't start a boutique but honestly, I feel like we definitely all need to. I don't think a lot of other races think like that. Like, oh, my friend has a whatever it might be, I shouldn't have one either. Like, I doubt they think that, but why do we think that it should only be one? And I don't think that. I think there should be absolutely more.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because even you look at like, well, I'll say the Asian community, and hopefully I say this politically correct. But, the different, not nationalities, I guess nationalities, yeah, that come from Asia, when they come out here, they all go to a certain field of work. So like the liquor stores, the nail shops, or if there's like convenience stores and stuff, like they know that there's like, okay, well, the Koreans usually run this type of store, and the Vietnamese usually run like the nail shops, and the Japanese usually run like the restaurants or whatever. But even though it's different, they all know that they're coming out here and they're going into a specific field. So it's like if all of the Japanese, and of course I'm sure they dabble, in whatever, but like even they'll speak to it like, no, we don't, do that, or we don't, do that. Like usually it's the Japanese who run that type of business, or it's like I said, the Vietnamese that run like the nail shops or whatever. So if they're able to come out here and say, we can take up space together, or we can learn this trait and then also like create some type of education for the next generation so that they can successfully run it. I think like to what you said, we can also do the same thing. Because so many people give like the generic, example of like, you go into the grocery store and you go down the bread aisle and you see a whole bunch of bread, like it's the same thing, right? But it's different brands, different types, different price points, it's different. But none of those bread companies said, oh no, someone is already doing it. Even if a whole bunch of people did, those bread companies or those people who started that, they weren't turned away by the fact that somebody else had did it. And if they're in the store, they're probably successful, like,
Definitely.
So that's definitely a good point. We have to realize like, if there's a gift or something that God gave you, like, even if you feel like it is oversaturated, like he gave it to you for a reason, and there's people that you can reach that maybe not anyone else that has already done it can reach. So that's that for sure. So as we're talking about like artists and writers, who do you feel like you serve, especially with like the publishing house? Who do you feel like your niche is? Is it just Black and brown, or is it like a specific niche or I guess a specific like edge that the people that you cater to might have? Like, who would you say your like target audience is?
That's a great question. And as it's hard to answer that because like knowing about like marketing and stuff, like I've heard that now people are talking more about like what is your target audience like interested in, like what are their interests versus like their demographics. But I guess to put it plainly, like I feel like me as myself, I'll do it like in two ways, like me and then like the press. Me as myself, I feel like my target audience is it's going to be naturally women, and then but I feel like it's my target audience are people of like a certain like age range, like Gen X, millennials, maybe a little zennials. And then I feel like the people that are interested in creativity and interested in like independence and creativity in that and exploring it. For the press, what's funny is like it's hard to say it's only Black people. Like in my mind, I think that, but honestly, I've found that my audience, I actually have like, it's weird. It's not weird. I'm not gonna say it's weird, but it's very interesting how many non-Black people actually rock with me and like, but like put money behind me, buy my books. I put out a shirt today for my press. The first person that bought it is not Black. The first, I mean, as soon as I posted it, within 10 minutes, I was like, damn. So sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like it's hard for me to sometimes like, but what I want to say is like, that's who my focus is, but I don't have a wall up. If anyone else outside of that comes, it's more like a gate. Like you could come in, but like, just know I'm trying to push a community that I feel like honestly, I feel like I'm coming for myself. Like when I did the event, which we'll talk about later, when I went to my high school and read, I feel like in my mind I was coming for myself. But in the classroom, a lot of the kids that like asked questions or said thank you or whatever were Latinos, which was dope. We have this, we don't have the same experiences, but they're very similar and they're not like as far off. And so it's okay that my target audience is Black and brown or like other. But in terms of interests, they're interested in poetry, they're interested in creativity, they're interested in like doing more with their art, more with themselves and trying to explore that. So all of that was like a very roundabout answer. As I grow and like learn more and more, it's kind of like I root for everybody Black, but I also have like room for, it's like a gate. Like you can swing, it can come in.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's something to know even outside of in whatever field you're in, especially if you're creating, that, we're trying to also develop a source of income. So oftentimes, 'cause even with me, like it's new Black History Makers, but then also once I was in the mall, I'm like, okay, I know that it's not only Black people that are going to be coming in here. You know, I'm gonna throw new Black History Makers on there, but that's why you see more of like the Watch Us Make History shirts, right? So it's like, you know, you don't have to be Black to wear it, but do know that this is a brand that caters to that. But I'm also not about to miss out on those dollars as well. So, you know, being mindful of that. But you know, I think if I would have put my stuff, of course, the I'm a New Black History Maker stuff is still in the mall. But if I would have limited myself to that, you know, that's just missing out on money. So it doesn't take away from the work that I do. My work is very like Black centered. But I think sometimes to get the bag, you know, or to be able to get a diverse bag, you know, it's like, hey, you know, you come sit here, but do know that this is what our intentions are, and this is like what our you know, our goal is at the end of the day. So I definitely like resonate with that for sure. Yeah. Okay, so then let's get into a little bit about like poetry for you and how it started. So yeah, like your love for poetry. And then also like I mean, I know you, but like do you address yourself as a poet, a writer, just like all encompassing? Like what descriptives do you kind of give yourself when it comes to your craft?
That's a good question too. Okay, so my love for writing started when I was a child. I've always kept a journal since I was 7. And I felt like that was one place that I could be fully honest, fully heard, fully just like could vent. And I always felt like sometimes I was like slow to speak, or sometimes I would stutter, or sometimes I wasn't always like I would be loud and if I'm like passionate about something, but for the most part I'm very chill. And so sometimes in different environments you may not be heard, right? And so I always fell in love with writing because it was a place I could clearly think and describe myself or whatever I was thinking about. But poetry came a lot later in life. The love more so like in college and like post college, like around honestly like really 20 shoot, I want to say like 23, 24. That's not like later, but that's not like late, but I feel like some people are like, oh, I've been writing poetry since I was 6. And I'm like, really?
Right,
Sometimes that irritates me. Like, come on, guys, let's be real.
right.
So later in life, whatever that means. But in my 20s, I was more into poetry then. And I really got my start with it. I wrote a spoken word piece and, very, very raw, very much growing. And then I moved to LA, went back to LA after college. And I auditioned for Dietrich Haddon, who was a gospel artist. He had a choir at the time and he put out a call for it. And I was like, I'm an audition. And I made it off of my poem. And then like we practiced for many years. He came out with an album. I made the album cover. I made it. There's a song, like a track that's mine on there. So I felt like, okay, this was like very affirming. And then I joined the class. So that was kind of like my journey, the CLI class where I worked on my book, got better. And so I don't really, it depends on which circles I run in. I just say I'm a poet / writer. It used to just be like poet, but I feel like a writer because like now I'm exploring different forms of writing. Like I'm working on like a memoir and a novel that's like 90% done. So it's just like writer.
I love that. So then I guess, well, I don't know if you like touched on it, but then because I feel like it's a very specific type of writing poetry is. I think when we hear like writers or even authors, because you are an author, we think of like the novels or like the big books that are on the shelves and stuff. So are the other forms of like literature, do they interest you, or is like was poetry just like nah, like this is the way that I want to go? Or
I think I wasn't because I didn't study writing and I wish I did. Maybe I would have been exposed to different types of writing. All I knew was poetry first because I would go to open mics and you typically see a singer or a poet. Like typically it's like those two. You might
yeah,
have something else random in there, a comedian or I don't know, but typically you're gonna see at open mic a poet or a singer. And so that's kind of like where I was like, well, I'll just do poetry. And then as I started joining groups and getting more out there, I was like, oh, now I want to try short fiction. Didn't even know what short fiction was. Didn't know what flash fiction. I was like, flash fiction, which is like, I think it's like under 500 words, like basically like half a page. Or can you tell a story in a paragraph? Like that's wild to me, you know? So as I learn more, I get more curious, and then I want to explore those different types.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because it's been interesting, I guess, with me and then the work that I was doing like in the community and having people come. And then once I met you and then was exposed to like World Stage Press, it was like, oh, there's a whole different like, world of poets that are monetizing it and that are really creating and like growing their, craft. Cause I think I had came early to like a World Stage Press event, and the event before was like you guys actually critiquing like poets and stuff on like their writing. So it was just like really dope to see that and to see like the community, but then also just to see like there's people that are really sitting here like perfecting their craft this way. It was really dope to see.
Yeah, you typically, yeah, it is a whole different world. Like you find one poet, you find them all, and it's like
Yeah,
they're in their own little huddle in a cave somewhere. It's like,
right.
dang, what's going on here?
Right. No, that's really how it is if you ever been to World Stage Press. So but it's cool to see you guys like stick together and support each other. But we're gonna go on a break in a little bit. We have like less than 30 seconds. So it's always weird timing it. But it's always like I don't want to have to cut the guest off. So I'm like, okay, I'd rather end a little earlier than like have to be like, all right, hold on, whatever. So I'm about to put up the flyer for Compton Advocates. So go ahead and screenshot it. We will be back. So do not leave for good, but definitely stay tuned. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Owners, are you looking to take your business a step forward? Are you looking for more people to know what you have to offer? You are in luck. The Good News Radio has a special deal for you right now. You can get a commercial slot 4 times a day, every day for a month. If you are interested, email contact@tgnradio.com.
All right, we are back. Those commercials are so funny to me. Did you hear them?
Only like a little part of it.
Oh, okay. They're so funny. So shout out to Good News. We're getting stuff together, being more professional. It is a black owned network, and we just moved over to being we're a 24-hour, like it's on 24 hours. So anytime that you hop on the app, you'll be able to hear a show. So that's why there's ads, so that there's breaks and stuff. But shout out to them if you are just now tuning in, or if you're listening and it's another day and this is a replay. This is the New Black History Maker Show. I am your host, Jasmine, and today I am joined by Camari Carter Hawkins. We are talking poets, all things poets, and everything that she has going on. So I know before we left, we were kind of talking about like your target audience, or kind of just like who you cater to specifically, and then also community. So that's like a big thing that I definitely wanted to highlight. And I know you mentioned CLI. So was CLI kind of like the entry point to community for you, or was it kind of like going to the open mics? How are you able? And I know you said like once you find one poet, you kind of find like the community, but how has your community been able to like grow over the past, X amount of years?
I will say that, yeah, the community kind of started for me when I joined the program. And from there, I started going out. They were really encouraging us to go to open mics. And then once I started going out and going often, and then you start meeting people like, hey, I like your work. I like your work. And then like you hang out late at night, and then it's like, oh, let's go to Denny's. And so it just ends up being like this community that grew over time. And then I just tried to frequent different venues, different community groups. And that's really how it worked out for me and how it grew. And then eventually I tried to slowly grow like my own. Like, I guess I can do like I'm doing that now. Like now that I'm in a new city and I don't know anyone, I feel like I'm starting all over again. And so I'm like, okay, what did I do when I first moved back to LA? I found where the poets are. So now I'm like trying to find open mics here. And there aren't very many that are geared towards poets. It's like one or two. And I'm like, dang, okay. And so I actually reconnected with an old college friend of mine. And she's like, hey, I like writing. Let's start a writers group. And we had our very first one. It's on like once a month. We had our first one at the start of this month. And we had 5 people came, which was great. And so that's 5 people I didn't know before.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like my way of generating community, is through the arts. And of course, I would love to, participate in other retreats, other workshops and things like that. But of course, we talked about the thing that happened, that we know all happened, and it shut down things, but it also opened up the world too. So when I did, I was one of the first, I mean, not to be like that, but I kind of was one of the first that did a virtual open mic. I had the idea for a while, but I was like, oh, nobody's going to come. But then I'm like, oh, we're all at home now.
Yeah.
So we're going to come. And then after that, like people started doing it. And then now it's like, okay, we're tired of the virtual open mic. we're done. We're done here.
Yeah.
But when I first did it, oh my gosh. And that was before Instagram lets you save the live. So it's no like real proof of that. But it was like mad people, and it was people from New York, people from all over. And I was like, this is so cool. I would have never met these New York poets, these Texas poets, all these people. And even now, I still keep in contact with some of those people in New York. And I'm like, whenever I get out there, I would love to go to the spaces they frequent. And then I'm probably going to meet those poets. You know what I mean? So I just feel like the pandemic really did open up the world in a way if you dived into it. So I dived into it, went to other people's open mics. I did every April. I didn't this year, but typically I would do like a poet chats interview where I would interview a different poet every night on Instagram. And that opened up the world to me too, because if I interviewed someone and then, they went live with me, their people would follow and then we'd meet. So it was that's typically how I generate community, is just trying to be I call it like a literary citizen. You just be a citizen. You show up, you support, you give your time, you pay your dues, and then typically community gives back. So that's kind of like my way of generating community or participating.
Yeah, no, that's dope. So I want to hop over to like actual poetry, right? So I feel like there's this expectation for like poetry to be deep or like for it to be like, oh, I need to be a high level thinker to get poetry, right? Like,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that and like poetry having to be deep, or is there space for simplicity in poetry? Like, just kind of talking about like that as a specific thing.
I feel like poetry and simplicity has definitely been a thing now. It is much more accessible. I feel like, and I don't want to like just like name a bunch of poets, but I feel like I see a lot of poetry now, especially like on Instagram, that is much more like easier to understand. I definitely am not like a complex, super deep, philosophical poet. I would love to be, but that's just not my get down. But I feel like the more I learn, I guess I get older and I'm realizing like, oh, there's just how they say, oh, there's someone for everyone. Like
Yeah.
your work, there's someone for your work who will like it, who will appreciate it. So I'm glad that there's different forms of poetry, there's different styles. I feel like there's a renaissance happening. People are talking like poetry is more in the conversations now. People are picking up poetry books and going to poetry tours and stuff. So I feel like it's a lot more popular again than it has been in a very long time. I think, yeah, I don't think poetry needs to be deep. I feel like it's just a descriptive way to explain something. And I actually prefer poetry, not like, I like deep poetry. I guess we have to define deep. Deep
Yeah.
as in, like, we're talking about like painful, real human stuff, or deep as in, like, wow, I don't even understand that because you were so in the fifth
Right.
dimension or whatever that song is. Um, yeah, I feel like now I resonate with poetry that talks about real life. I prefer that type of poetry.
Yeah.
Um, but then the poetry that I can't understand, like it just goes over my head. Like you got to miss me with that one. But it's for it's for people. Like there's
Yeah.
some classic poets that people love, and I'm like, I don't like it.
Mhm.
One thing that means the world to me as well is I feel like even like when it comes to performing poetry, I often think about like my grandmother. And I remember I took her she came to my book release. And I remember her, like after book release, there was different people performing before me because it was at the world stage, like during their open mic night. And I remember her telling me that she just couldn't understand what the people were talking about. She was like, I can't understand either what they were talking about or because of their delivery. Sometimes people think that, oh, the faster you talk, oh,
Yeah.
I'm really hitting you now. Watch my this, blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah. And everybody, yeah, it might get the snaps, but we're snapping because how you use your mouth and lips and tongue, not
Yeah.
because like we remember what the heck you said. I'd
Right.
rather you really remember. So every time I perform, every like 98% of the time, I think that I'm talking to my grandmother. And so I
Mhm.
enunciate. I try to, especially like I'll start a poem off a little bit slower, especially at an open mic, because you're hearing so many different voices that honestly I feel like it takes someone some time to get used to hearing your voice.
Mm.
But if you come off, I've been walking down the street and I've been doing this and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, what? You just came at me. I missed the
Yeah.
whole first 30 seconds of that. Now versus but that's just my style. I don't think everyone has to do that,
Mm.
but that's my why, right? Everybody has their why. My why is I want people to hear me,
Mm.
hear what, like, hear why else? Why are we wasting
Yeah.
our time if you don't hear
Right.
me? And I want you to at least remember something. Like I want to leave a feeling because I've been at open mics and I'm like, I don't even know what they said. I don't even remember. I don't even remember the feeling of it. I just remember you just talked really fast and you were
Yeah.
loud.
Right. And you were like, right. And that kind of brings me to like the next question. I know you touched on it a little bit, but like what kind of poet, or not that there's certain types of poets, but like if there was a descriptive to like how you are and how you deliver as a poet, what would you kind of like say to that?
How would I describe it? Wait, say it one more time.
Yeah, how would you describe like yourself? Like if you were packaging like you as a poet, like how would you describe your style and how you deliver?
Oh gosh. I would consider myself an evocative poet in that I evoke emotion
Okay.
because unfortunately, like I wish I could talk about sunflowers and trees all the time, but I usually talk about like the hard things of life
Mm,
and that like draws out emotion. So not like an emotional, like you about to cry, but I want you to feel something. I want you to I want it to resonate with you in some type of way. So I would say that's kind of how I would describe my work.
mm. I like that. I definitely like that. And then also, we know like with the pandemic that happened and stuff. So as far as well, I think just as being a creative in general, like, is it always necessary to create based on the times, or is it necessary to kind of create based on just always keeping the center of like true feelings, like genuine feelings? Yeah, I guess if that like made sense, if my question made.
Mm, I think it does make sense. I have a couple of answers to that. Well, Nina Simone said, basically, actually, that quote is in my book. I don't even want to misquote it. She said, I started it off. Um, Gosh, where was it? Nina Simone, where you at? I choose to reflect the times and the situations in which I find myself. That to me is my duty.
Mm,
So basically, her duty is to reflect the times and situations she finds herself in. To that, I feel like we naturally do that anyway, even if we're talking about our day to day lives. Like, even if I talk about, oh, I got this text and blah, blah, blah. Well, text didn't even exist, like,
mm,
barely even 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Maybe even 20. You know what I mean? And so that's reflecting the time, even though it's not like political or a human right or whatnot,
right.
but it is reflecting the time. Naturally, we do that. But I also feel like we shouldn't just only write to reflect the time. I feel like we should just always be writing. There's this book I'm reading now and I'm almost done. I feel like every artist who considers themselves an artist should read this book called
Mhm.
The Artist's Way
Okay.
by Julia Cameron. And she really with it I've learned the craft of morning pages. And I already journal, but morning pages, like as soon as you wake up you're journaling. And honestly, it's a way to of course get out like your mind, like whatever the junk is, whatever you're thinking about. It's a place to rest, it's a place to vent, it's a place to dream. A lot of things that I've desired have slowly started like coming up because of like these morning pages. And even just being able to, and she wants it to be a thing that like you have that you don't share with anyone else. So with that, I've learned that I should be creating every day. Like the whole book is to get you to be unblocked, like be recover your artist self that can create every day, can create and not wait for inspiration. So all that to say, like sometimes people wait to only talk about an event. They only wait to write to talk about a riot. Okay, well, riots aren't happening right now. So what are you just waiting on the next one? You waiting on the
Right.
next
Yeah.
shooting? You
That's
waiting on We should always be creating, always, there's always something to talk about. So that book helped me to get to that point of like accepting that and
good.
moving more in that spirit.
Yeah, I love that answer. I feel like there's a way to kind of apply that to life and not necessarily like operating only when you have like this burst of like energy or when you have like inspiration, right? But being able to kind of like find inspiration to move or do whatever, like in any space
Yeah.
of your life. So I like
It's not
that.
like if you're gonna be about it, be about it. It's almost like, I love us. I love our people.
Yeah.
And so but sometimes we only like rally for each other when like something happens, somebody get killed, somebody this, or Black History Month. Oh yeah, yeah, bye, support black. But like keep that same energy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like keep it throughout. Like support often as much as you can. Share your friends' stuff, do this, whatever. So I feel like that, like you said, that principle can be like applied to any type of facet in life. Don't just wait until inspiration hits you.
Right. Right. And I like that morning pages. So I like I think I mean I'm not an artist or anything, but see how I can incorporate that into my life or see what comes of that. But that's super dope. So I want to also talk about like the beginning. Well, I know so let me get my thoughts together. Mama's Kitchen Press, was it born after you went to AWP, or was it something that you were already working on?
It was born after AWP.
After, okay. Well,
I
because
like had the thought, like it was like,
Mhm.
oh, I should start one because there's not enough.
Yeah.
That was the thought, but it didn't come into fruition until like 2 years later.
Right. But then I remember you or people calling you like the book doula. So that title came before Mama's Kitchen Press, right? Because of the work you were doing just with like artists and helping them put their books forth. Right.
That term, yeah, that definitely came before Mama's Kitchen Press. It came while I was still working with World Stage Press / CLI. Like that,
Okay.
CLI is the umbrella and they own World Stage Press. And so it came there because I was, it was in its growing phases. And so it wasn't that many employees, people working there for it. And so it was just me at the time. And then me and a couple other people. It wasn't just me. Well, let me not say that. I managed it, but it was not just me that did it. But like it takes like some, it's like a conveyor belt or like
You wore a
I
lot
don't
of
know, like
hats.
an operator. Yeah,
Yeah.
making sure like it happens. So, and then even managing anxious writers, gosh, it's like how a doula would manage an anxious mother. Like,
Mhm.
okay, calm down. We have this. I got this for you. I got, a lot of my job was like, chaos management, really.
So is that work that you were doing kind of, at least we'll speak specifically to the hat of with these art, I mean with the authors and stuff, is that a lot of the stuff that reflects what you're doing with the publishing house?
Yeah. So right now, what my work kind of entails, because it is right now, it is just me and then like whoever else I like contract or use as a vendor to like design or whatnot. And so a lot of the job is like following a timeline, like usually it's working backwards. Like I'll think, okay, what do we need to do? We need to have a book by when? Okay, let me back up. We need, and I like outline all the things that we need. We need a cover, we need the interior, those need to be designed. We need an editor to edit. We need the ISBN. Like I list out all the things that are needed by when, and then I just like really start dispatching them. I feel like maybe I'm like more of like a dispatch person. Like, okay, and I check in, did that happen? And I'm following up. It's just really operations management for the most part of making sure that this book happens by the allotted time. So I'm constantly communicating with like different people. So sometimes we think that like, oh, anybody can write a book. Yeah, anybody can.
Yeah.
You can self-publish, but like I know I can literally see the difference between someone like just did it all by themselves, or they like went a step further and like, had some extra help and maybe hired some professionals to do it. It's really a lot of work. It can be done fast, but I wouldn't ever advise it because I feel like that is like a slap to the skill of writing a book and crafting it and putting that time in. So being a book doula now, like with what I do with the press. So right now it's like two things. I help with people who want to self-publish their books. And then I'm also preparing to like traditionally publish authors. And I have 4 in my lineup right now. So the difference is like helping people self-publish. They own their work. Well, everybody owns their work, but like I help them create everything and it's like, go. I'm not responsible for your sales. I'm not responsible for marketing it. You have your book, you do the rest. I just helped you put it together.
Okay.
Traditionally, same thing, except I guess like basically they shouldn't have to put any money up. I help them with promoting it. I help them like, and you have more of a backing and more of a, I guess like a clout to say, oh, I've been published by blah, blah, blah versus
Yeah.
kind of like a clout thing.
Yeah. So what would you say that you offer that would be like exclusive to what you offer, or like the way that you kind of like can give or pour into an author as like the book doula? What would, what kind of like sets you apart basically?
I feel like what sets me apart is that I'm more of I consider it more of a personal publisher. So of course there are other programs out there and other people where you could just simply upload your stuff. They chew it and spit it out back to you. Here's your files. That's it. Whereas me, I literally walk alongside an author until their book release. I have one now that's coming out, even though she only contracted me to help with just her interior. She has all of her other files, like the ISBN and this, that, the cover. I'm just helping her with the inside of it. Even then, I'm like, when's your book release? Okay, like, let's get this together. What do you want? Like, I'm calling, we're talking once a month. It's more of a personalized touch than just, and it's almost like when you call an operator or you call customer service, you get the operator, you be like, I'm going to talk to a human, I'm the human, versus there's a lot of places where you just get that machine and you get what you get and don't throw a fit.
Right. Let's also talk about Poets in the Kitchen. So I was on for a little bit. I think I brought two artists, but it was an event that Camari put on. It was virtual. It happened maybe like 2 weeks ago. And it was you can go ahead and explain it instead of me trying to explain it since you're here. But just tell us a little bit about what that was, if you plan to do more of those. But yeah.
Yeah, Poets in the Kitchen. So of course we're playing off the themes of of kitchens. I love everything about the kitchen and what it represents for Black and brown people, specifically Black. We do our hair up in there, we do everything. And so Poets in the Kitchen, that event was to bring into the world, like announce my authors that I have coming out soon. I'm working on their books and they're coming out soon. So it was just my way of getting the community excited about it. It was Poetry Month. I wanted to just have something to offer my authors and present them to the community. And it was a great, great, great event. I have the replay up. It's on YouTube. It was just really a fantastic event.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah. So and that's really dope just to see like the publishing house or the press kind of like it grow, or just see that there's that there's fruit there. I think that's something that I've been on, like people are saying they do stuff, but like where's the fruit of what you're doing, like what are you producing from it? So it was cool just to see the event, and I could definitely see that being, I know that I don't know where any of these people are, but I know that you're not here. But it being a thing where people do come out and people do come physically to a space to see the artists and the authors that you've had like in your in your catalog or whatever. So that's really cool. And it was also good to just, because I don't think I've been around poetry for a while, just because of like the pandemic, like in a actual like physical space, or even like virtually. I just haven't been around it. So to see that and to hear some like good poets, it was like really dope to see that. Well, what do you think your favorite part is about, or what has been your favorite part, or if there's a specific like event or example that you can give where maybe you had a moment with one of your clients, but just like a favorite part or an affirming, moment for you?
Typically, the affirming moments are right at the end, at the book release, or when they get their book and they're excited to see it. Because sometimes you don't know. It's like being an author is hard when you don't understand the process. And so you're trusting someone else. It's like being in a waiting room, like you're, or even just like you're waiting on your dish. And it's like, okay, I know I placed my order in. What is happening back there? Like what's going on? Did they get my order right? Did they know I wanted, cayenne pepper? Did they want, and then dealing with that is like that anxiety. Like, so my least favorite part is like getting the author to trust, like, I got this. I got it. It's going to work out every time. And even if there's like kinks in it, in the, in the process, it always works out. My favorite part is when that book comes and it's like, here you go. And they're like, Camari, I love it. It's so great. And in my mind, I'm thinking, but I love it anyway. I'll be throwing salt, but I'm like, I love that feeling of just the finished product.
Right. So then if people are, if someone's watching, they're like, well, I want to write a book too. So what specifically do you cater to? Is it only poets? Is it, novels or whatever? Or how does someone know that you are, that they can go through you and use your services?
That's a good question. I'm actually like, fine tuning all of that. But if they were interested, they just go to my website, mamaskitchenpress.com. And then there's a link there that says services, and then it outlines what we do. It's more than just poetry. Like if someone already has it written and they want to, put out a novel or a short story or whatnot, we can totally do that. But typically poets like reach out to us. Our last project we did was a multi-genre book where it was poetry and plays and a couple of essays.
Right. I love that. So, yeah, I think I was about to ask one more question. We're getting ready to go on a commercial soon, so that's why my mind is like all over the place. But yes, you just answered that question about the book or about how people can get to you or how they can become a customer, basically. Well, yeah, I guess I'll just do this commercial. And then we'll uh go into the actual commercials, the commercial break, the 3-minute break. So this show is also brought to you by DJ Camari. He does weddings, birthday parties, marathons, clubs, you name it, from LA, Vegas, San Diego, Houston, Atlanta, South Africa, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Canada. So you definitely want him to do your next event. He is well versed and can take you from hip hop to some, I don't know, techno type of vibe, the next, song or whatever. So definitely DM him at DJ Gamray on Instagram to secure your next event. And then also check out some of his playlist and some of his I guess, yeah, playlist is what we should call it. But some of his playlists he has, you can go click the link on DJ Gamaray's Instagram. But shout out to him. And also, if you are looking to market to advertise yourself, you can definitely hit us up in our DMs and we can secure you an ad space. We're having a sale, so all of our mentions are $5, and we can secure you a space and get you on our YouTube live. But we're getting ready to go on a break. We'll see you in 3 minutes. We can secure you a space and get you.
Allergies, mucus buildup, or do you just want to boost your immune system overall? Well, at the Organic Option, we make it easy to get your plant-based nutrients daily with organic tinctures and herbal capsules. Just put a few drops of tincture in your water, tea, or juice of your choice, and you'll be on your way to a healthier lifestyle in no time. Super blends like sea moss, bladderwrack, turmeric, and ginger, the mucus buster. We've got the organic solutions you need to keep your body at its best. Shop now at trytheorganicoption.com and use the promo code GOODNEWS for 30% off your order. Once again, that's trytheorganicoption.com. Feed your organs.
Yo, this is Jay Slee from Hollywood Unlocked, and even though they extra as hell, check out Never Not Extra on TGN Network.
That's right.
Y'all gotta have notes, cue cards, teleprompter.
Hey everyone, it's the Primos Chidos.
Hopefully you're enjoying this show, but if it sucks, be sure to check out our show, live Thursdays at 12.
Yeah, join me and my sister and basically my brother as we discuss everything from immigration to ejaculation.
If that sounds interesting, then we're the show for you.
Warning, the following podcast features discussion of sensitive topics, graphic content, and uncensored stupidity. Unless otherwise stated, the featured content is not discussed by professionals or experts. TGN and the Primos Chilos must advise against taking anything said on this program too seriously. Viewer discretion is advised.
Woolsey, it's Deshaun Showtime Watkins, and you can tune in to Compton Mania Monday nights, 9 o'clock on TGN. Woolsey, only on TGN Sports. Hey, Peyton, you know what I've been craving lately? Some ice cream.
Now we have to go to Slush and Roll. They have the best handmade ice cream rolls. You can add any toppings you like. Sprinkles, crushed Oreos, and my favorite, marshmallows. And you can top it off with whipped cream or delicious chocolate drizzle.
I just looked them up, and you can find them at 12742 Crenshaw Boulevard in Hawthorne, California. And they even have vegan options, too.
They sure do. And they are open from Tuesday to Sunday, 12 to 8 p.m.
And I just followed them on Instagram at Slush and Roll. Sounds too good. Let's go right now.
Yay!
Hey there, business owners. Don't miss our limited time offer. Advertise on the Good News Radio as low as $2 per commercial slot. That's right. Promote your business up to 4 times a day, every day for a month on live radio. If you're interested, email us at contact@tgnradio.net. Once again, that's contact@tgnradio.net.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jaja, your local health professional and wellness coach, looking to help you build health, wealth, and community. Call me, text me at 951-569-8296 or find me at _JZA on Instagram.
What's going on, everyone? This is Mark Cooks, financial strategist and retirement expert. I am here to satisfy your financial needs when it comes to life insurance, retirement planning, and debt settlement. So please give me a call at 323-8.
Alrighty, we are back. This is a New Black History Maker show, and we are here at the Good News Network. I'm not alone. I'm with Camari Carter Hawkins. This is our final third of this show. So thank you for rocking with me. This is definitely a good conversation. I don't think we often have like conversations with poets and about the ins and outs and like everything that's going on. Like I feel like if it does happen, it's definitely in like the poetry community that it's happening.
Mm.
So I'm definitely like glad to have you here. So let me do one more commercial or one more ad sponsorship. So also for today, the show is brought to you by Jazzy Sweets and Eats, where you will taste the difference because everything is scratch made, old school, and small batch with premium ingredients like high quality butter, extracts, and free range eggs. So if you need some desserts or anything, definitely check them out at Jazzy Sweets and Eats on Instagram. So it's JASSYSSWEETS and Eats. I'm not gonna keep spelling out all these E's and T's, but definitely go over to their Instagram page. The stuff is amazing. So go check them out and get y'all some desserts. But back to Kamari. So I want to talk a little bit about like poetry during the pandemic. So, well, poetry during the pandemic. Was that like a difficult time? I know we talked a little bit about what you were able to produce during that time, and how you kind of like maneuver. But initially, was it, a difficult time for, artists and just poets like all around?
Oh, absolutely. It was. I mean, I feel like individually, you know, poets are humans. I mean, shout out to this one poet. His name is poet. Oh my gosh, Poetic Boy D. I think that's his name, and he has this poem called "Poets Are People" too. And I feel like the pandemic really, it was hard on a lot of us, I think, and a lot of poets I know didn't even like write because they were just trying to survive, trying to live, and
Yeah.
their lives changed, trying to secure work or the so many fluctuations and confusion. And I know even myself, like I went very, very crazy and it was not okay. It was not okay. Too much transition, too many things happening that was like not okay. And so I barely wrote. And then two, because a lot of poets like go to these events and then like you can't anymore. So it's like where can you even go to release or
Yeah.
connect with people? And then even just on a maybe like as a community organizer or like, for the presses and for the people that like hold space for people to come, of course, they couldn't. So they suffered either monetarily or just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And, that means learning new programs, getting computers. Some people didn't have computers or, just navigated with just phones. But now they're like, oh, I need a laptop now. I mean, first world problems, it seems, but I feel like people really realize that community is everything. You need people. And when you're by yourself or you can't really connect and you're going through things, depending on people's personalities, they probably like burrow into themselves. So now it's like, you don't have your community, you're going crazy, you're inside, should you hug, should you not? I just feel like it was just hard on humans and then hard on like the poets. But now that things have like are opening up, I feel like people are just now really reflecting on it and writing about it now that like it's hard to create in survival mode. I feel like that's a general thing. Like you got to pay rent and you got to do things or whatever in any season outside of a pandemic. If you're in survival mode, of any kind, it's hard to be creative. It's hard to be loving and sweet in your normal self because you're like, I gotta, I gotta make it. I gotta make it. And so I feel like now that we're, I guess, somewhat coming out of it, I'm starting to see people now like, okay, I'm working on a book now, or I'm coming out with something. Like people are more creative now and coming out from the people I know. I don't know how it was in different cities and states and whatnot, but from my observation, that's how I saw how poetry kind of suffered in the pandemic.
Yeah, I think, a lot of us, or it just affected a lot of people in different ways. So it's just interesting to see in like certain, like I know definitely as humans, but then also like based on your craft or how you make your money, it hit a lot of people a lot harder than it did some others. So, because even you think about like working from home, if you're an artist, what does working from home look like if you're not on Instagram Live, if you didn't already have the backing, if your backing or your following was growing and you were getting people to just like be able to buy into you? I think it definitely put like a pause, but I'm glad to see we're like turning a corner, hopefully. So I do want to talk a little bit about like ways that poets or that you yourself even have just like monetized your craft and throughout the years pre-pandemic, but how you were able to kind of just like, hey, I have this gift, let me put it here, and then also like able to charge people and go through that process.
I definitely feel like I had to put in my dues, and I had to being I frequented, like when my book came out, even before, like I was wherever there was an open mic. For the most part, I was there. I supported people. I did a lot of studying. Like, okay, look how someone would put together a set. Like, okay, you got 30 minutes. Like, what does that mean? Do I just go up there and just read back to back to back? Do I talk in between? Do I tell a story or whatever? So I had to like really, I had to put that time in and put those dues in, get my professionalism up, get my email game up, get my, all of those things, website, get all of those things professional and position myself for that. So now I feel like I started monetizing, let's see, kind of after the book came out. If people would offer like a payment, for me to come and feature, I would take it. But now I think after I got like my first college gig, which is actually like my alma mater in Texas, Abilene Christian University, I sent my book to a previous instructor of mine, and he's like, "Oh, we got to have you out here." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool." But then like actually happened, paid for the flight, got me a hotel, rental car. I was like, dang, can't nobody tell me nothing. And bought like books. I was like, oh my God, I want to do this all the time. And it didn't happen all the time, but after that, I just, once you just kind of start and get out there, and like that's why you utilize social media and really put yourself out there. Some people like they don't share what they're doing, they don't share their work. Sometimes that can feel very humbling or whatever, but social media is a great tool. And I just taught like a workshop on it, how it's a great tool for writers. And when you're visible, that's how you get more opportunities, that's how you get more interviews and calls for people to, hey, can you come here, can you do this, can you do that? I recently put myself on this website called Gig Salad, and I got like a college gig that paid me $500, which was dope. Got some other gigs, that paid like more than that. And of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna pay me that? But then I'm like, yeah, you're gonna pay me that. Like, you at college, you got money. So,
right.
But I think one thing that gets hard is that sometimes people feel like, oh, just because they got a book or just because they're this or that they should just start monetizing. But sometimes like you do have to put your dues in, you do have to put yourself out there, support other people, let people know you're booking, use social media in a professional way. Like you can't, if you're trying to put yourself as an author out there, you can't be sending mixed messages is all I'm going to say. Unless that's who you are, unless like you're like a reality star and that's your get down, but like putting out, mixed messages, it can sometimes harm you more than like help. And, getting like a proper website, making connections, networking, getting an electronic press kit that you can send out to people, step your email game up. Because sometimes I'll be seeing all kind of like, I hate emails, but I guess that's like, now, like, I guess professional emails are out the window, so they say, but all that to say, it took me a while to get to a point where I could like monetize myself. It wasn't like overnight. It was like my book came out in 2016, but these opportunities, like my first college gig came in like 2000, I think like 18, and like now here it is 2022. Now I got these gigs that pay me, sometimes $1,000, sometimes a little bit more, what I mean? And so it took some time.
Yeah.
It took time.
Yeah, that's good. So let me go to one more little commercial, but when we come back, I want to talk about the difference between like paying your dues and then also like kind of, I was about to cuss. I'm not gonna cuss on here. or I'll say like, why can't I figure out another way to say this? Doing too much, or like giving people too much credit, or devaluing yourself in trying to like quote unquote pay your dues. So that was supposed to be a lot quicker of a bit that I was supposed to give.
What are you gonna say now? Like, how else could you say that?
Like, don't want to be kissing people's butts and stuff.
Oh,
And the
okay.
other thing, yeah, I try not to cuss on here. You know, we got church people watching, so I want to let them feel like they can watch this without their faith being compromised.
Their faith is compromised because they heard. Well, they got some bigger problems if they hear cuss word and their whole faith is.
Maybe not their faith being compromised. I want them to feel comfortable listening to it. I want them not to be like, I tried to see a show, but you know, you was doing a little much. So I try to be respectful of both, you know, both sides. But I'll play that. We're gonna come back and get back to that, but we'll be right back.
Sundays just got sweeter. The Hub Radio presents First Sundays Open Mic, hosted by Hub City Dre, DJ Gamma Ray, and the First Sundays Band. They're inviting all singers, rappers, comedians, and poets to show up and show out. Sign-ups begin at 6 p.m. Sundays Open Mic will take place every first Sunday of the month. It's just $10 before 8 p.m. and $20 after, so arrive early. The address is 1135 East Compton Boulevard. That's 1135 East Compton Boulevard in Compton, California. For more information, follow them on IG at First Sundays Open Mic.
Alrighty, so yeah, this Sunday open mic, Compton. Oh, let me get it. First Sundays open mic, and that's interesting because we're talking about poetry and stuff.
Yes.
So definitely pull up there. We've been doing it since maybe last November, maybe a little before. But it's been every first Sunday, like it says. But definitely pull up. It's definitely a vibe. It's definitely just it's cool. I said definitely about 5 times. So just pull up and come out and support them. But yeah, so back to what I was saying, not the church stuff, but before that, about the difference between or where do you draw the line between paying your dues? Because I feel like there sometimes you know, people will be like, oh, you gotta pay your dues, and then you're sitting there and doing things you know, not necessarily devaluing yourself, but like you're constantly trying to prove yourself, you know, constantly trying to say like, I am good enough, I am this, I am that. So where does that line get drawn, you know, between that, like, no, I know I'm good enough, this is me paying my dues, versus like, no, you're just asking for me to, you know, show rank here?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, while I was paying my dues, I wasn't thinking of it like that. I think it's all about mindset. I think I just knew I wanted to grow. I knew that I wanted to be. I want to be one of the best. I don't always like. I gotta be the. You know, I want to put my hat in the ring. Is what I'm trying to say. So I feel like mindset is key in everything. Like if you're trying to do it just to like. That's a good question. So paying the dues really just means like, what are your desires? Why are you doing this? You need to grow. Like, who am I to think just because I put out a book, like I'm just gonna like, you know, be like super egotistical in here. It's like, no, like I know I want to be better. I know I want to put the time in. So putting the time in, it depends on each industry, but it's like for me, like going to the open mics, like getting visible, putting myself out there, making sure people know about the work. I feel like it's just about the work. But at the same time, you do have values. If you feel like, not like if you feel like you should get paid, but typically, like a guy I know, a co-piece, a poet I know, he typically says like, if someone asks you to perform, right, and you're a poet, and like, hey, you get a hit up, like, hey, I would love for you to perform in my show. His theory is that like if it's like a ticketed show and people are paying like 20 plus bucks to get in, then you as a poet should get paid something. Versus it's up to you if you want to do it free or not. Like if it's a free show, it's up to you if you want to show up for free or not. You can negotiate like, hey, can I have a table? Like have these options to pay, but like don't come in and just be like, oh, I don't know. Like you just kind of have to like, you know, check your intuition, check your ego. But there are times where you can ask like, hey, you know, politely, is there a budget for this? I would like to know if it's a pay, you know, like because he would say like, if it's, let's say it's like a ticketed show, the drummer's gonna get paid, the DJ gonna get paid, everybody else get paid, but the poet's be like, oh, I'm gonna pay you an exposure, right? But you kind of have to have that self-awareness as well. Like, where are you in your journey? Are you super starting off? Are you like still fumbling on the mic? Are you still not sure about yourself? Are you coming off as an amateur? Or are you really like about it? Are you really professional and showing up? Like sometimes we just want to get paid just because we did it, but
Yeah.
it's like, no, like professionalism still plays a role. And it doesn't mean you showing up in a suit and tie. It means you show up on time. It means you have your stuff. Not that you have to memorize it, but you have it like down pat. You have a system. You have it ready. Now people just be like, oh, I wrote this yesterday. I wrote this today. Here go my piece. Pay me $50. It's like, I don't think it goes like that. But maybe I'm a little old school. Like I'm still kind of like in between where I feel like people should still be professional when it comes to like paying your dues. So you just kind of have to fill it out
Yeah.
and see.
And that's a good conversation to have, because even on the other side, so pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of events, and I was doing events like 2017, 2018. So then it got to the point where certain, artists were starting to ask for, to be compensated. Now, it's a little different when you're somebody that's like a grassroots person like I was. And it's like, I'm working in education, paying for this event myself, the venue, the food, whatever you see here, I'm having to produce that. Then for an artist to come and be like, oh, I want you to pay me $65 to perform for 5 minutes. And it's like, okay, like I do believe that you should get your stuff. But then also I think one thing that's important and that we have to talk about is, are you like shoppable, right? Like if you're on a shelf, what else do you have that people can spend money on? Like, because if, first of all, if you do have other things, you're going to get more than $65. If you have a book and your book is $15 and let's say 4 people buy it, or, maybe one buys offline or whatever, you're going to get more than your money than you just trying to, get from my pocket. So I think, or, not necessarily get from my pocket, but I think it's important also for anything that you're doing, if you have a business, if you have a nonprofit, figure out ways to monetize rather than just asking like, oh, okay, because I'm here and I'm doing this, give me money for this. But like, I think
and that's where the professional, you're right, like where the conversation comes in. Like I feel like if someone's inquiring about you, do you have a booking form? Like I feel like somebody should be able to click like, all right, here's the name, here's the type of event. It is not paid, but we'll do this, we'll provide that. Like it needs to be like a little bit more of that versus like come and pay me. Versus like I feel like I'm not against the hustle of asking you should get paid, but like you can ask like, hey, is there a budget for this or an opportunity for me to table? You know what I mean? And then you can say no as an artist if they're not going to pay you. You have that power. But like if it is a nonprofit, if it is free, like you have that, like you can say no, or you can decide like, hey, sometimes it's about the people. You want to meet new people. You want to put your stuff out there. I feel like just paying my dues when I was out there, I had books to sell. So I wasn't always getting paid. Or maybe sometimes I'll get paid like in gas. Gas is high. Okay, I got gas for you. Can I set up a table or make an announcement? And then I would, like you said, I would sell books. Yeah. Sometimes those free events be better because people got money, they didn't pay to get in. Sometimes when they pay to get in, they be like, man, I already spent.
Right. Yeah. Because even when I vend, I'm not an artist, so I guess my offering is the community work, right? And a lot of times you will see people like, oh, for me to come here and do this for you, or to come, put this together for you, I have to charge or whatever, but I have merchandise. So that's something that I'm like very big on. Like, I don't want to be making a GoFundMe or asking people, like being the hungry activist, right? Like the brand and the line of clothing is how we're able to make money. But even with me and vending and stuff, or when I was doing it more often, if it was like a free event or something, I knew, that there's a better chance of me making more money because people are not coming in with, well, I already have this amount that I already spent, so I'm probably not going to go this much more over or this much more under. So I love how you said like, hey, if it's not paid, can I come and bring my stuff, or even if you have merch, like it's so simple right now to get something and put something on a shirt. Like if you really, want to dive into that, it's really a simple thing if you put it forth, and you'll see you'll generate more money than whatever it is that you're asking for that one day. So that's just for artists, I think. For people in general, like figure out these multiple streams of income. Like if you are a singer or whatever, like figure out how to people have to wear clothes, and if they like you and they like your stuff, get one of your most popular little quotes and put it on a shirt. Not little quotes, I'm sorry, but get one of your quotes, and put it on a shirt and see what it does. But yeah, I think that's good, and you'll see it's more, it's more money. You'll make more than what you're trying to squeeze out of somebody that already has to pay a whole bunch of people, and hopefully we do as a community get to a point where we are able to dish out whatever people are asking for, but a lot of these community events are here because we want to provide safe spaces for the community, and it's like, hey, we all trying to get a bag at somewhere. So
Mhm.
if we all are collectively working towards our own bag, then I think we won't be pulling from each other's pockets, and it'll, make sense. So I love that. I definitely love that. So yeah, artists gotta get you something to put on the table so you can, vend. And I think that's really dope. Seeing a dope artist go up and then seeing that they have a book or something that you like, oh, I can take this home. I enjoyed you. Because oftentimes we only have these videos that we may have caught, of these artists, like
Mm.
especially with poets. It's like, um, oh wow, he said something dope, but I don't have anything to take. Like with the song, you can go and play it back or whatever, or like, oh, where can I get that from? But sometimes with poets, it's just what they're releasing in that moment, and what you felt there is all that you have.
Mhm.
So if there was
Yeah.
something that I can take, and that would be like
I
paraphernalia.
love that. It's like, yeah, maybe I don't have a book yet, but I have a quote and I could put it on a shirt or you put on a
Yeah,
pin or yeah, I love that.
take that. But yeah, so along the lines of like poetry, what do you feel like poetry has like done for you as an individual?
Besides saving my life,
Mm,
I feel like it has been a beautiful way for me to express myself. As I said, like sometimes it takes me a while to formulate my thoughts, or it takes me a minute to like that transition from brain to mouth. And so I feel like poetry has been a friend in that it's helped me to express myself. And it's also opened many doors for me, and that it gave me, I've met people through it. I've been able to travel with it and have my work in people's hands. And I feel like my poetry is now it's going to live longer than me. And I feel like it's been a gracious gift. It's been a gracious gift. And now, like, because it's been so long, like, even I've been teaching some poetry classes through the CLI class, the Community Literature Initiative. I've been teaching, and like, through all the work of it, like I see like the different sides of poetry. And so now I'm trying to get back on like putting another book out because I just feel like I have so much to say, and it's it's just a really wonderful, wonderful gift.
can you talk about CLI a little bit? I'm always like fascinated with it, and the fact that this community, well, a lot of the poets that I know, came from CLI and just what it's been able to do. So for anyone that's like not familiar with CLI, can you touch on it?
Yeah, it's a poetry publishing program, and so writers can sign up and participate for about 10 months, and then at the end of the program, they'll leave with a published book. Not a published, I'm sorry, like a finished manuscript, a finished book is what I should say. He doesn't publish it;
And
it
then you
helps
can
you
go
to
to
finish it.
Camari to go get it published.
Oh, yeah, you can do that.
Right.
That's the next time, part
Right.
two.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful in that it's 10 months. It's virtual now, or sometimes it's in person, but it's virtual now. And you're in this class with 13 other people and sharing work and learning. You also learn different types of genres, different types of poetry. So it also exposes you to different forms more than just like spoken word or whatever that person might be used to. So I like it. And so it's a great program.
Yeah, it's definitely dope. So I've heard a lot of stories or just personal experiences of some of the artists and stuff that have come from there. And then also to see like the community, and because it's a class that you go through, and then to see like, oh, being at an event and someone shout out like, oh, they were in my CLI, class, and seeing some of the heavy hitters that have come from that group, like including yourself, it's like really cool. I think it's a staple definitely for the LA community here, like of writers and stuff. So that's really dope. Yeah, I love it. And then is it specific to poetry or
It is, but they just started their children's book class. They launched their
okay.
children's book class. So that's an option too.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to wrap up, but tell us how we can support you, how we can support the publishing house, where we can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Camari Creative. Camari Creative. And go to my website, mamaskitchenpress.com, to see all the different things that we do.
Yeah, I love that. And then, of course, like your books and stuff. We didn't even talk about Right Back to You at all. That's crazy. We have like less than a minute, but
It's okay.
like, they can still purchase that, right?
Yeah. Well, my other website, CamariHawkins.com. But you can get it from, I'm putting it on Mama's Kitchen Press so that it can be available there as well. So
Okay. So yeah, that Right Back to You for sure is one Camari facilitated a really dope event. I talk about that retreat all the time. But we went to Joshua Tree, so that was like her introducing Right Back to You, the journal. So it was like super dope, just a really dope time, really dope experience. The book really helps you reflect like on yourself. So instead of it being something that's like trying to tell you how to do stuff, it's like, well, what is it that you want to do, and then this is how we can possibly like move forward. So it was just really dope. So I think that's something that you should get. There's men that I know that have read it and benefited from it. So if you're a man, if you're not a man, whatever, like, don't think that it's only like a feminine thing. But yeah, thank you, Camari, for coming
thank
on.
you, Jasmine.
I gotta call you.
Fantastic. I know I miss you. This is really wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it was amazing talking to you. So yeah, we're gonna get off, but make sure y'all support Camari. Go ahead and follow her and check out her website. Go get her books and all of that. We'll post it on our Instagram, but we will be back next Friday with another show. Catch you guys later.
Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. These guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, Black Chow, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow